Hey guys, let's go ahead and rank all the factions in XDefiant. You guys ready for that? I have played until I'm level 14. I feel like I've gotten a little bit of experience on all of these. Okay? Let's start out with the absolute S tier. Alright? If you guys haven't played ranked yet, what you'll end up finding is that the echelon is top tier. This is the only S tier faction in the game. Okay, and I'll tell you guys. So this one, the passive is insane. Your character does not appear on your opponent's minimap, regardless of actions performed. You shoot a gun, you don't show up. You're in their backline causing havoc, you don't show up. Of course, unless you are countered and pinged only by Echelon itself. As you can see, the Echelon is one of the abilities is the Intel suit, which is basically like a UAV ping, right? If you get pinged there, I don't know if you show up on the mini map, but I've definitely been killed so many times by those. Which is funny because this digital ghillie suit, this one is, I don't know if you guys play Overwatch, but this is basically like a Sombra ability. You're in their back line, right? You're in the back line just absolutely destroying people. All right, and they can't do anything about it because you can go invisible. And the ult is also insane. It's a one-shot kill. It's wall hacks. There's no other way to say it. Echelon is 100% S tier. I think these guys are gonna get nerfed. These guys are way too strong. All their abilities, I mean, both what do you call it? Both abilities are like really useful. So like if you want to go backline or if you want to counter, or just even in some of those game modes like domination, where people kind of cluster up, you get a ton of value from the intel suit. And honestly, you just don't show up on the minimap. You literally cannot ask for anything more. This is the only S tier in the game. Okay. Let's see. Look at these. These are the two. I have not unlocked these guys yet, but that's not what we're here for. Okay, so now that's the only S tier. A tier. All right. A tier. I will have to go with Libertad. Okay. So the abilities on this one, passively, you literally just heal yourself and nearby allies. There's a ton of value in this, especially if your team actually sticks together. And so in some of those more objective oriented game modes, like I guess technically they're all objective, but objectives where you guys are like closer together, so like escort or like occupy, or what's the other one? There's like a control point, like those ones. Like this is really good for that. Where it's less good, I would say, is probably, I'm just talking about the passive, is hot shot, where people are kind of all over the place. Domination, you know, technically there's 3 points, so if the game's a little crazy, it's not super impressive like the passive here. But I will say this boost is incredible. It's basically armor. It's basically armor, right? Like you take a hit, you are actually able to back up into a corner and heal yourself really fast. Not only does it work for you, it works for your allies. This El Remedio is cool, but this is a little bit more situational, where the cooldown I've found is really high and it's super noticeable, right? Like if somebody sees a blue smoke of gas coming out of the ground, they're just gonna chuck a nade and destroy it. So for that, I think this is not an S tier class because one of the abilities is not that good, and honestly you just can't compete with the echelon. Anyway, now the ultimate is fine. It doesn't last as long as I'd like it to, but in like, again, those objective game modes where everybody's really close, this is incredible. It's basically an improved version of this ability here. But yeah, I think the boost is insane, so I think this is a solid A tier class. Now, the other A tier class I will tell you is the cleaners. Alright? So, let's talk about the cleaners here. You get two abilities. One is a napalm drone, which I don't know the best analogy for it, but it's like you're like launching. I wouldn't like call it an airstrike, maybe like a napalm airstrike in a line. The range is pretty long. Like you could clear out rooms with this. You could cut off choke points. You could basically get people off like the payload, like the escort robot. And you can just overall just use it for great damage. I have gotten multi-kills with this. It's absolutely incredible. Especially again in game modes where you know where people are gonna concentrate on, which is typically the objective. You do this, we'll get kills. You don't even have to be good. Second thing, all right, the passive. So this one, I have gotten killed so many times when I am in a firefight with a cleaner, where I just die after the firefight because it has lingering damage, and that lingering damage is actually really strong. You combine this with an AK-47, you're basically unstoppable. You pretty much win 1v1 firefights where nobody's like flanking you or anything, and even when you get flanked you have a chance to turn it around. But this is crazy. Now the firebomb is also very good, but you have to run a specific class for it. You got to run like a run and gun SMG class, and this is basically a cop-out move, right? Like you push into a room, there's 3 people, you press a button, you win, right? You otherwise would not be able to take down those 3 people with your gun alone. So this is a kind of a cop-out ability. It's a little bit very specific to kind of that play style, and it doesn't always work, like if people are smart, right? Like because there's like a delay, like you don't just like press it and everything gets deleted. There is a little bit of a delay, but if you combine the sprinting with the slide and somebody's in that room, you can like pre-press it and pretty much everybody burns that area. Also really good for like, again, domination or control point type game modes. Now, where I think this one sucks is the ultimate. The ultra is not that good. You get a flamethrower, the range is awful, and not only that, like you don't get additional armor. So you basically have to get up close and hope that you don't get shot, which is highly unlikely. I have seen people try to, somehow get good flanks and actually burn the entire enemy team to a crisp. But I think that's more so about the enemy team just not knowing how to play against it than this ability actually being good. So do not, again, the ultimate is not that great, so that is why the cleaner is a solid A tier. So let's recap. S tier, A tier because you're a little bit tankier, right? You can heal and support your allies. A tier because it's just a solid firefighting class. Like you play any of these types of games before, like you'll feel right at home with this one. Now let's talk B tier. All right, B tier, I would say fandoms. Okay, and why I think it's B tier? Well, one, I think that the abilities are a little bit too niche. Like they're very situational. So when you look at like the mag barrier, right, like it's facing one way, it can be destroyed. I found the teammates don't really play around it anyway, or you could kind of solo ability, I guess, protect yourself, which is fine. But again, I don't think it's a better ability than the other ones that we've talked about. The Blitz Shield, I've actually found somebody, and I've used it as well, is if you run like an SMG class and you're trying to run and gun, you go in and you don't necessarily get out, you just pull out your shield. It can save you. Like you pull out your shield and you're like basically crouching and you start walking backwards, you'll be fine. The ultimate is also generally pretty good here, like, but I found that people can kind of get countered here if somebody's like going invisible and they're getting nade spammed. Now, of course, the additional health is nice. So solid B tier. I wouldn't say it's better than the Libertad or the Cleaners. It's honestly just okay, right? Like the Phantoms is just fine. And then finally, there's no F tier here, but I will give a C tier to the DedSec. So this one you have to unlock, but I've already gotten it. Basically, the passive. So start with the passive. The passive is cool because you can basically spam gadgets and grenades, right? So like after you throw like a grenade, you can print a new one. So cool. You can nade spam, I guess, right? In one life without dying. But you could also nade spam if you just die consistently. So I don't know really how much value there is in that. The spider bot I think is good. There is way too much randomness here though. You don't know where it's gonna go. I haven't figured out a way if you can actually control the way it goes, like if you can influence the way it goes. But it's nice to see people get kind of shocked with it. I mean, they move really fast. They can climb up ladders. It's nice. There's just way too much randomness. Like you can't direct it. Say on like the napalm, the incinerator drone from the Cleaners. Like if you could do that, or like if you could like check it, like that would be so much better. This one, the hijack is too niche, right? It requires that the enemy team has an ability active. I have seen people hijack the sonar goggles before. I just think it's way too situational and not super reliable. It's cool if you get it works, but generally not that great. And this one's just awful, honestly. Terrible, absolutely horrible ultra. So what, you prevent enemies from using their ability in an area of effect. So what, you're gonna go in there in the middle of them and place down a phone so they can't use abilities, and what, so you can die immediately? It doesn't even last that long either. So C tier is DedSec. So that's my assessment here. Echelon number 1, I'd say Cleaners, Libertad number 2, number 3 tied, number 2 tied. Is A tier, B tier Phantom, C tier DedSec. Do you guys agree? If not, if you do or don't, just let me know how you guys feel so far. But I will definitely be rocking a lot more Echelon going forward. See you guys in the next one. Like and sub. See ya.